Skoda widens its EV offering with this compact yet spacious family model, the Elroq. It slots in below the Enyaq, but still manages to feel like a more usably sized family car than the other small VW Group EVs, whose engineering it shares. If you've been holding back for a more versatile kind of smaller EV, this Czech contender could be worth trading up to.
Skoda's compact yet versatile Elroq EV might be an ideal second family car. Here, we're going to take a closer look. With the Elroq, Skoda's EV product offensive at last gets into gear after a lull following the introduction of the brand's first electric model, the Enyaq, back in 2020. The Enyaq's done well for the brand. It found over 200,000 customers in its first 3.5 years on sale, and it's frequently been Europe's most popular electric car. Launched here in early 2025, this Elroq is slightly smaller. It's positioned as the electric alternative to the brand's lower mid-sized combustion-powered SUV, the Karoq. In EV terms, this is the Skoda version of the engineering that's also brought us similarly sized VW Group EVs like the Volkswagen ID.3 and the Cupra Born, but the Elroq's a bit bigger and it costs less. Perhaps even more significantly, it costs a lot less than quite a few of its most obvious market rivals too. So it sounds good so far. Add in a trendy new design language and very competitive EV range figures, and there might be a lot to interest you here. You can find out more about this kind of model by downloading the Car and Driving app, but if your interest is specifically in this Elroq, then stay with us for the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. Let's get straight to it. The Elroq is an uncommonly well-engineered small EV, one of the very best in the segment, but it's also one of the heavier cars in its class, and that's a common theme amongst EVs with the VW Group rear-driven drivetrain that this Skoda uses. Front-driven electric cars are almost always lighter, and that's probably because they don't need so much strengthening to meet crash performance standards. Perhaps that's why Kia's switched to a front-driven format for its rival EV3. At nearly 2.1 tonnes when tested, the bigger battery Elroq 85 we're trying today is about the weight of a baby grand piano, heavier than the equivalent version of that key Korean competitor. Of course, you could eliminate a lot of that difference by choosing this Skoda with its smallest battery, but that would see you in a base 55 kilowatt hour Elroq 50 model, which hardly anyone wants because, of course, it only goes 233 miles between charges. The mid-level 63 kilowatt hour Elroq 60 that most Skoda folk are going to choose does better, of course, 265 miles, while the 82 kilowatt hour Elroq 85 that, as I mentioned earlier, we're driving here today does better still, supposedly offering up to 356 miles, although that is still 20 miles off an equivalent 81.4 kilowatt hour Kia EV3. The top dual motor Elroq VRS hot hatch has an 84 kilowatt hour battery, and that's rated at 339 miles. You might sense some of that weight in the measured linear way that this Skoda blends its torque to the tarmac away from rest, but that's not to say it feels slow. Even the base 50 model's little 170 PS motor has quite as much pep as you'll need for everyday driving. It makes 62 from rest in 8.7 seconds. I figure the 204 PS volume 60 version improves to 7.7 seconds. We'd expected this 85 variant to feel quite a lot faster. Its 286 PS drivetrain is basically the same as that of the Cupra Born VZ hot hatch, but unless you have a lot more space in the traffic than modern British highways tend to provide, you probably won't feel that it is. 62 miles an hour is rated at 6.4 seconds, but that requires selection of the sport drive mode that you'd ideally want to avoid for reasons of range. The other modes are eco and normal, plus there is also an individual setting that allows you to tailor your driving dynamics, your steering and your drive, and even adding the kind of sport engine sound that you don't really need in this class of car. The few that do want electrifying performance from their Elroq are best served by the rare dual motor VRS flagship model, which has 340 PS, all-wheel drive, and makes 62 in 5.2 seconds en route to a 111 miles an hour top speed, which is 12 miles an hour faster than you'll get from the two base powertrains. That top Elroq gets steering wheel brake regen paddles, but most other variants in the lineup lack those. And that's disappointing because those paddles are, in our view, an essential tool for controlling frugality and smoothness in this class of car. Even when you do have them, there's no really aggressive one-pedal brake regen setting of the type that's now popular elsewhere in the segment. With most variants, all you get in terms of regen control is the extra B setting on the stubby little gear selector, which, if you're anything like us, you'll keep forgetting to engage. Round the twisty stuff, there's not a huge amount of steering feedback, but the helm is precise and accurate enough for this Skoda to be hustled along quite quickly if that's required. The heavyweight doesn't seem to be too much of an issue in terms of your rigidity here, and the bulk can work both ways, of course, when it comes to ride quality. That is usually a Skoda strong point. Here it's supple and decently judged, but it could have been so much better if the Czech engineers had given the handling a bit more of a comfort emphasis. We would certainly trade a bit of the well-controlled body roll around the bends for a bit less of a clunk over speed humps and potholes, and we think that most likely customers would agree too. It'd be good if car brands stopped reading quite so many car magazines. In case you're wondering, adaptive suspension isn't available on mainstream Elroq models. We wouldn't try and fault the excellent refinement though, apart from pointing out that it's a real pity that the extra sound deadening fitted from this plush edition trim upwards couldn't have been installed further down the lineup too. This impressive hush that you can experience here is helped by the relatively sleek 0.26 CD drag factor. That's aided apparently by the attention paid to closing the gap between the tyres and the bodywork. Journey and quietness is just one of a number of things that stand out with this car over repeated use. Something else that you'll regularly enjoy is a kind of exceptionally tight turning circle that no front-driven model in this class can get anywhere close to. It's just 9.3 metres. That'll be a real boon in tight city situations. Without the badge work, would you guess at this being a Skoda? Well, perhaps not. The Elroq introduces the brand's more future-conscious, so-called modern solid design language. This was previewed by the company's Vision 75 concept model of 2022. As a result, the neighbours might take a second glance. Perhaps what's more important is that here you're getting more metal for your money than the class norm. Now, although the Elroq is priced against relatively compact EV crossovers, its dimensions are closer to more spacious ones. Now here, the VW Group MEB architecture, which underpins cars like the Volkswagen ID3 and the Cupra Born, has been stretched a lot further to 4.49 metres. That's about the same as a far more expensive Ford Explorer, and it's a bit longer than this Elroq's Skoda Karoq combustion equivalent, which is 4.39 metres in length. In case you're wondering, the Elroq is still 165 millimetres shorter than the next EV up in this Czech maker's range, the Enyaq, that measures in at 4.65 metres. Crossover cues include roof rails and black wheel arch cladding surrounding the big standard 19-inch alloy rims. We mentioned the new modern solid design language. The most notable aspect of that is the striking frontal 4 eyes light signature of the Tech deck face nose section, which on the clamshell bonnet replaces the usual Skoda circular badge with lettering. This top black panel, which can be optionally illuminated, flows into thin daytime running light strips, which the LED headlights are hidden below. They're connected to thin corner air curtain vents. Grey colouring to the lower spoiler lip aims to add an SUV vibe, and the active cooling roller blind behind the front apron opens automatically when cooling air is required for the battery system. There's no underbonnet frunk, and if you lift the bonnet, you'll see why there's no space for it. Here at the back, the gently sloping roofline merges into a roof spoiler with finlets above the tailgate. all of which, along with a completely smooth underbody, helps with aerodynamics. The 0.26 CD drag coefficient is better than you'd think from such a boxy shape. The rear look is very much like that of the larger Enyaq, so as with that car, there's the brand's usual C-shaped LED lighting layout, and there's more crossover-y grey finishing for the lower part of the bumper. Time to take a look up front, where it's very like an Enyaq, and that's a good thing. There's nothing particularly luxurious or trendy about the design or finish of this cabin with this big central screen, but you don't expect that at this price point. It all seems to have been well screwed together by the Mlada Boleslav Czech factory, with its welcome absence of shiny piano black plastic and plenty of eco-themed materials. Those are particularly in evidence with the optional Lodge trimming package we have fitted here, although that entails the need for orange EasyJet style seatbelts, which rather detract from Skoda's insistence that it's no longer a budget brand. It is refreshing not to be staring at an unnecessarily large and complicated instrument screen through the wheel spokes here, just a nicely integrated little digital cockpit display that tells you everything you need to know and nothing that you don't. In needing to delve into the VW Group parts bin to create this car, Skoda has rightly rejected some of the features that irritate on a comparable Volkswagen ID3 or Cupra-born. Haptic steering wheel buttons and the absence of rear window switches are just two examples. And they've added in a row of welcome physical buttons below the two central vents, including one that takes you straight to climate functions without having to scroll through menus in the screen above when you should be looking at the road ahead, or possibly instead at the big augmented reality embellished head-up display that comes as part of a popular optional pack. Lots of effort's gone into cabin detailing, possibly too much effort actually. If on the passenger side you run your figures down from the dash top to the glove box, you'll encounter no fewer than 4 different kinds of surface finishing. It's all very busy. Skoda provides a steering column start-stop button, but in practice you never use it because all you have to do to start is push the gear selector, and all you have to do to stop is to activate the electronic handbrake. Let's get on to screens. The 5-inch digital cockpit display we've already mentioned is quickly covered with a central speed and battery readout, which can be shifted left or right to make space for nav instructions or drive assist info. The dashboard's big 13-inch central screen isn't perfect, but it gives the monitors of rival Stellantis group models a lesson or two in user friendliness. Climate, nav, phone and music functions are accessible along its bottom frame, and the home screen can be viewed either with rows of icons or with customizable widgets. We've got voice control, radio, phone and nav mapping here. Drivers can define up to 5 shortcuts leading to frequently accessed vehicle functions and up to 4 shortcuts for apps. As usual with the brand, there's SmartLink, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless phone connectivity, and a decently intuitive LoRa voice control system with ChatGPT enablement. What else? Well, the front seats are supportive and well bolstered and can be set up quite commandingly. Bonnet ridges help you to position the front end in tight spaces. Rearward visibility isn't great thanks to the small rear window, so it's just as well that rear sensors and the rear camera are standard fit. In true Skoda style, there's an umbrella secreted in the front door lining, but only the driver's side. The front passenger is just going to have to get wet. We're not quite as enthusiastic as Skoda is about cabin storage, but there's certainly plenty of it, with up to 48 litres of simply clever cubby space around the interior here. To us, it doesn't seem particularly clever to have the glove box halved in size by the fuse box, to have forgotten an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, or to have made the cup holders so tiny that only the smallest cups will fit in them. Still, there are plenty of plus points. There's a deep box between the seats here with a nice ratcheting lid and 2 lift-out compartments. Just ahead are coin slots and a deep stowage tray by the stubby gear selector, while at the base space at the centre stack is a very neat compartment with a 15-watt cooled phone charging mat, although this space is cluttered by the fact that its twin USB-C ports need unsightly USB-A converter leads. Big flock-lined door bins are always welcome, as is usual Skoda ticket clip on the windscreen. Time to take a look in the rear. Wide opening doors make it easy to lean in and install child seats. Skoda bills this car as an SUV-sized car for hatchback money. Will the extra body length you get over this model's closest to VW Group cousins pay off here? Well, yes, it does. It's not class-leadingly big back here, but headroom's good, and you certainly don't feel as cramped as you would do in an ID3 or a Cupra Born. It's actually not that much different to the space you'll get in the back of the brand's larger Enyaq. This is an EV design from the ground up, which comes with the usual pluses and minuses. On the minus side, there's no sliding seat base or reclining backrest here, and the floor level is a bit higher than it would be in a comparable combustion model, which on some longer journeys might leave some long-legged adults a little lacking in under-thigh support. Although, thanks to extended seat bases, that's not as much of an issue here as it is with some rivals. The EV plus point is the lack of a central tunnel. That's a benefit here obscured by the optional fitment of this useful removable compartment. Take this out and a third centrally seated adult occupant will just about fit. Another extra cost feature is the side window blinds we have fitted here. We've also got USB-C ports, although disappointingly those don't feature back here with the two cheaper trim levels. And the cup holders in this armrest are as meanly sized as those in the front. Still, the twin pockets in the front seat backs are useful, as are the big door bins. You can pay extra for the rear tri-zone climate controls back here. We don't have in this case. You get overhead reading lights though, and a coat hook on each B-pillar. And small rear quarter-light windows stop it from getting too gloomy back here too. Let's finish as usual with a look out back, where this powered tailgate costs extra. For us, this is the only area where the Elroq loses out significantly to the larger Enyaq, but even so, the 470 litre space revealed here, 115 litres down on the larger model, will be quite sufficient for most families, which is just as well because, unlike with some rivals, Kia's EV3 for example, it's not supplemented by extra underbonnet frunk space. Note to designers of rival brands, this is how you do boot space. Well, almost anyway, there's no room in the compartmentalised space under the floor for any kind of spare wheel, but Skoda's got almost everything else right here. Most customers will tick the box for the optional transport package, and that will give you a variable height boot floor, a double-sided boot floor mat, and the cleverest touch, this net which fits below the parcel shelf for the charging leads. Why has no one else thought of this? Usefully, the parcel shelf too can also be positioned at a lower level, and that would be jolly helpful if you were throwing in something like coats and bags and you didn't want to obscure rearward vision. On the left, there's a deeply recessed area with a tray and a 12-watt socket above. On the right, there's an elasticated strap with a shelf above, and that's near the button for the optional retractable tow bar. There are two bag hooks either side. There's an ice scraper stroke tyre tread depth gauge mounted in the boot lid, and a useful light on the inner side of the tailgate, which will aid nighttime loading. Up to 8 carry-on suitcases will fit, and awkward items like pushchairs are no problem to fit in width-wise. The seat back split is conventional 60/40, but you do get a ski hatch, so longer items don't necessarily have to go on the roof if you've got a couple of rear-seated passengers. When everything is folded down flat, there's up to 1,580 litres of space available. Prices at the time of this test in summer 2025 were starting from just under £32,000, which is reasonable value for a compact EV of this relatively spacious size. Bookending the lineup are two versions of this car that hardly anyone will choose. That base sum we just mentioned gets you the entry-level 170 PS 50 model with the cheapest SE trim level and the smallest 55 kilowatt-hour battery. Just 5% of Elroq buyers are expected to choose that. The other extreme on its own at the very top of the lineup is the hot hatch Elroq VRS, which has its own bespoke dual motor all-wheel drive powertrain, a potent 340 PS output and an 84 kilowatt-hour battery. As we filmed, that VRS costs around £46,500. Almost all Elroq customers, though, are going to be choosing between the 63 kilowatt-hour and 82 kilowatt-hour mainstream versions of this car. The 63 kilowatt-hour version is badged 60, has a 204 PS rear motor, and as we filmed, was priced from around £34,000. Here, though, we've chosen to try an Elroq with the larger 82 kilowatt-hour battery. These two mainstream powertrains come with a choice of three trim levels: SEL, this mid-spec edition variant, or Sportline. Let's give you some perspective on those prices. From a Skoda point of view, the Elroq uses the same powertrains as that larger Enyaq showroom stablemate, but it offers a model-for-model saving of around £5,500 over that not much larger model. It also shares its engineering with two other directly competing VW Group models also in this segment. Those are the Cupra Born, that's an equivalent version, would cost you around £500 more, and a Volkswagen ID.3, which in equivalent form would cost around £2,000 more. Obviously, there are plenty of other full electric family hatch choices you could make from outside the VW group of brands if your budget lies in the £35,000 to £40,000 bracket. Now, we're talking here of a size above EV super minis like Peugeot's E208 or super mini based EVs like Ford's Puma Gen E. Something you'd more easily fit the family in other words. The models more comparable in terms of size and price to an Elroq that we'd recommend would be cars like Kia's EV3 and Niro EV, Hyundai's Kona Electric, Renault's Megane and Nissan's Leaf, perhaps also Volvo's EX30, Honda's eNY1, the Omoda E5 and the BYD Atto 3. You might also want to consider a bunch of Stellantis Group EV models in the segment: Citroen's EC4, Peugeot's E308, the Vauxhall Astra Electric, the DS No. 4 E-Tense and Alfa Romeo's Junior. If you are prepared to look at something a bit more SUV-like, then you could also consider the MG S5 EV, the Leapmotor C10, the Toyota Urban Cruiser or the Suzuki e-Vitara. In terms of space and value, though, many of the alternatives struggle to match what's on offer here. If that's your conclusion too, after considering an Elroq, then you're going to need to know exactly how generous Skoda has been here with the standard spec. So let's take a closer look at that right now. Even base SE trim comes with 19-inch Proteus silver alloy wheels, LED headlights, black roof rails, rear parking sensors, LED rear lights and predictive adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist. Inside there's Skoda's Loft design package, which gives you upholstery in fabric and artificial leather, along with LED ambient lighting. Plus there's a digital cockpit instrument display, a rear view camera and dual zone climate control. Media features are taken care of by a large 13-inch touchscreen display with LoRa voice control, an 8-speaker audio system and Skoda's wireless smart link system for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto phone mirroring. If you want drive modes and navigation, as a lot of Elroq customers will, you'll need to upgrade at least as far as SEL trim, where Skoda also throws in heat for the seats and for the steering wheel, plus front parking sensors and the Skoda Connect infotainment online and remote access setup. Here, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying mid-level edition trim, identifiable by the smarter 19-inch Regulus anthracite alloy wheels, the use of privacy glass for the acoustic side windows, and the dark chrome finish applied to the roof rails and the window surrounds. Edition customers also benefit from keyless entry, extra cabin noise suppression, and a 15-watt wireless charging mat with a cooling function for your handset. And at this level 2, there's a travel assist function which makes extended use of swarm data for extra journeying support. If your Elroq needs a more dynamic looking vibe, then you'll be steered towards Sportline trim. This is distinguished by 20-inch Asterion black alloy wheels, matrix LED headlights and unique Sportline bumpers, along with a gloss black finish for the roof rails, the door mirrors and the tailgate lettering. Inside, Sportline models come with a bespoke design selection package which features micro suede and artificial leather upholstery, carbon effect decorative inserts, front sport seats and a black headliner. Plus there's also a 3-spoke artificial leather sports multifunction steering wheel, aluminium pedals and an electrically operated tailgate with kick activation. Drive stuff fitted from this level upwards includes brake regen steering wheel paddles and more direct progressive dynamic steering. That only leaves the top VRS version. This is set apart by unique Draconis 20-inch alloy wheels, body-coloured door sills, VRS bumpers and an illuminated tech deck top grille panel. There's a VRS lounge design selection trimmed cabin. This is much like that of the Sportline, and the VRS front seats offer power adjustment and a massaging function too for the driver. Other VRS features include a head-up display, a 12+1 speaker Canton sound system, an area view camera, side window blinds, a double-sided boot floor and dynamic chassis control adaptive damping. That latter feature is an option with Sportline trim. Optionally, you can add to the VRS a contrast-coloured black roof too. Yes, options, let's get on to those. It's a pity Skoda wants so much extra, £1,100 in fact, for the heat pump you'll need to preserve your driving range in cold weather. With base SE trim, you can't even pay extra for that or much else. Hardly any extras can be ordered with the entry-level spec at all, including the tow bar, which is available at extra cost on all other Elroqs. Across the rest of the lineup, probably the first 2 things to look at are the transport package. That'll give you a boot net, a variable boot floor, a double-sided boot floor mat and a rear storage compartment. And also the winter package. This will give you a heated windscreen, heated rear seats and tri-zone climate control. For the SEL and the Edition trims that most customers will end up choosing, Skoda offers a chance to lift the slightly dour loft cabin trim with 2 optional design selection packages. We have Lodge here, which uses recycled Econil upholstery, orange stitching and orange seat belts. Alternatively, you can have the Sweet design selection instead. That'll give you a mixture of faux and real leather upholstery and cognac stitching. If you want to add a few luxury niceties to your Elroq, you can from this Edition trim upwards, starting with the Plus package, which adds a powered tailgate, LED matrix headlights with dynamic range control, animated rear indicators and a tailgate area storage net. Here we've got the Advanced package fitted, which, as well as all the Plus package items, also adds a lot of the really nice to have VRS cabin features we just mentioned, namely a head-up display, a 12+1 speaker Canton sound system, an area view camera, side window blinds, a double-sided boot floor, rear side airbags and power adjustment and a massaging function for the driver's seat. If you do want even more, then there's a top Max package, which, as well as all the Advanced package features we just mentioned, adds tri-zone climate control, park assist with remote park assist and those extra driver's seat features for the front passenger too. With the Plus, the Advanced or Max packages, you'll be offered the extra option of adding Skoda's illuminated tech deck top grille panel. But before you spend too much extra on any of those things or on the larger 20 or 21-inch wheel sizes, do remember you'll almost certainly have to pay Skoda more for your choice of paint colour. The only standard shade is solid energy blue. We have solid Timiano green here. This is a shade that's exclusive to the Elroq. Onto safety, which is well covered. As you'd expect from a VW Group product in this class, there's front assist autonomous braking, which also recognises pedestrians and cyclists, plus lane assist, emergency steering support with turn assist, blind spot detection and traffic sign recognition. Avoid the 2 base trim levels and your Elroq will come with Skoda's Travel Assist Plus pack. This will give you lane assist plus and narrow lane assist. Urban evasive steering support 2 and emergency assist. And this will bring the car to a controlled stop if you're taken ill at the wheel. Some of these ADAS features can occasionally get a bit irritating until you figure out how to work with it or how to turn it off, but it's nothing like as intrusive as is the case with many of the Chinese models in this class that we've been trying just recently. In our view, the Oriental brands should all purchase an Elroq and just learn how to install this kind of tech properly. All Elroqs get the usual passive safety features too, of course. In this case, that means twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus a central interaction airbag too, all linked to an e-call system. Sportline and VRS models get rear side airbags too. You'll be wondering just how realistic the driving range figures we quoted you earlier are. Take the 363 mile stat of this big battery 85 model, which at the time of this test was the longest you could get from any electric Skoda. While driving quite briskly on this test, we've been regularly getting around 250 miles and 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour. Make of that what you will. Sadly, that's not an unusual discrepancy in this segment. You could doubtless do better if you stuck to a suburban commute though. Onto battery replenishment. Now, one of the big disappointments we had at the original launch of Skoda's larger Enyaq EV was its feeble public charging speed, improved since, of course. This Elroq is much better provided for from the beginning, but its charging speed still varies quite a lot depending on the powertrain you're choosing. It is fortunate that few will want the smallest 55 kilowatt hour, 52 kilowatt hour usable battery used in the base Elroq 50. That can only DC charge at a maximum speed of 145 kilowatts, which means that when it's hooked up to a public rapid charger, it can be energized from 10 to 80% in 25 minutes. The Elroq 60's 63 kilowatt hour battery, 59 kilowatt hours of that is usable, charges at 165 kilowatts, so charging from 10 to 80% takes 24 minutes. The bigger 82 kilowatt hour battery that we're using in this 85 model, 77 kilowatt hours is usable there, can be DC charged at up to 175 kilowatts and can hit a 10 to 80% DC charge in 28 minutes. The top dual motor VRS model can charge at up to 185 kilowatts and complete a 10 to 80% charge in 26 minutes. The battery's optimized preheating function increases efficiency at DC fast charging stations. It's either activated automatically when using the navigation system's route guidance, or it can be started manually in the infotainment system's charging menu. The current temperature of the battery and also the current state of charge, they are constantly monitored by the battery thermal management system. This activates the temperature control if necessary. We mentioned the central screen charging menu. Via this, you can also save charging locations, activate bidirectional charging or a battery care mode, or activate an electric vehicle route planner, which will automatically plan your charging stops when route guidance is active. What about replenishing the battery at home? Well, with the 55 kilowatt hour battery of the base 50 Elroq, full AC charging takes around 8 hours with a typical 7.2 kilowatt wall box. You can reduce that to 5 hours 30 minutes if you're able to use a 3-phase 11 kilowatt supply. With the 63 kilowatt hour battery of the 60 Elroq, you'll need around 9 hours with the typical 7.2 kilowatt wall box. You can reduce that to 6 hours 30 minutes with a 3-phase 11 kilowatt supply. With the 82 kilowatt hour battery of this 85 Elroq, as with the 84 kilowatt hour battery of the Elroq VRS, you'll need around 12 hours with a typical 7.2 kilowatt wall box, and you can reduce that to 8 hours with a 3-phase 11 kilowatt supply. All Elroqs come with a 6 meter 32 amp Type 2 charging cable as standard. Across the lineup, there's a fixed servicing schedule with a basic inspection after 2 years, unlimited mileage there, and subsequent services every year or 18,750 miles. Skoda says its aim is to make sure that the battery pack lasts as long as the car, and sure enough, the battery pack is warranted to have at least 70% of its usable capacity after 8 years or 100,000 miles. There is usual unremarkable 3-year 60,000 mile Skoda warranty. Only the third year has a mileage limitation there, and there's 12 years of body protection guarantee, a 3-year paint warranty, and 3 years of Skoda assistance. Now that includes European breakdown cover. Insurance groupings start at 22 for the 50, 27 for the 60, 34 for the 85, and Group 37 for the VRS. Depreciation is expected to be in the 48 to 52% bracket after 3 years and 36,000 miles. Rivals like Kia's EV3 and the Renault Megane can only manage a 49% best. Remember that the top versions of the 85 and the flagship VRS model will take you over the £40,000 threshold, and that'll make you liable for the government's luxury car tax. Like all EVs, the Elroq incurs a 3% benefit in kind tax until April 2026 anyway. Ideally, the Elroq is the EV Skoda would have used to launch its electric vehicle offensive back in 2020. Today, it's the car which was originally envisaged to replace the combustion Karoq SUV, but it now won't do for some time while so many of us remain wedded to fossil fuel. When the larger Enyaq was first launched, it had a very affordable entry-level price, which rapidly went northwards. Let's hope that doesn't happen again here, because in its entry-level forms at least, the Elroq really does seem very good value indeed against rivals which often aren't as spacious inside. It also looks quite sharp, and it does appear competitive on range. On the debit side, plenty of other cars in this class are more interesting to drive, and most are lighter. But like us, you might well think that everyday usability is of more importance with a car like this, which is something that this Skoda nails in a way that, for the time being anyway, competing Chinese value brands just don't. Ask us to nominate a benchmark in the lower mid-sized EV hatch segment, and this would probably be it. Yes, there are more exciting choices in this class, but if you're looking for a great all-rounder, then right now, we think there are a few better ones.